month is another book by Liz Tomford. This time it was The Right Move. The Right Move. This is the second book in a series of interconnected but standalone sports romance books. The first one was Mile High. This one is called The Right Move. And the third one is Caught Up, I believe. I don't think there's a fourth one out yet, but I'm not sure. Anywho, this is The Right Move. This one follows Indy and Ryan. If you've read the first book, it follows the main character's brother in this book. And Ryan lives in a very large and empty apartment since his sister moved out. And Indy, who is the best friend of the main character in the first book, is looking for a place to stay. And so she ends up crashing with Ryan. Indy is a stewardess for a hockey team, and Ryan is a basketball player. They all play the big leagues and everything. I'm so not educated on especially American sports and how it all works, so I'm not talking too much about that. But this is a very sweet, kind of forced proximity, friends to lovers kind of situation. They're not friends, they're not really enemies. They kind of do the fake dating, and that's just all I'll say about it. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. I did feel a little bit like something was missing to give me that 5-star feeling, but I loved it so much. I think I know what's missing. It's Liz Tomford's books so far kind of feel like fanfic stories sometimes. It really feels like the dream scenario being played out, and I know that it's fiction, and that's the point. But sometimes the realism is lacking a tiny bit for me. I still really enjoy the books. They're very feel-good, but they also cover quite a lot of ground, and there's definite character development in them, which I find very important. Her books, both this one and the last one, are very dialogue-driven, I feel like, and I really like that, because it's a bit more show don't tell. Like, oh, he said this, and then I said that, and now we're here. It's like you see them discussing the thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I really enjoyed it, and I think that Ryan is a very good example of if he wanted to, he would. However, I want to say this to all the girlies and guys who are dating: if they wanted to, they would. It's not as simple as it sounds, okay? Like, there's no nuance in the quote, but this really shows the parts where they, in a fanfic kind of like fantasy way, if they wanted to, they would. Like the perfect scenario, which is just fun to read about. So yeah, that was a really good start of the month. Then something man's mission, and if he fails, humanity and the Earth itself will perish. But right now, he doesn't know that. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time, and he's just woken to find himself hurtling through space millions of miles from home. It's up to him to puzzle out an impossible scientific mystery, and he's gotta do it all alone. Or does he? So, a man wakes up in a spaceship with amnesia, and you follow him figuring out what his story is, how did he end up there, what's his part in this, and at the same time, you are on the journey with him as he figures out a very important scientific issue also soft DNF'd a book of which I do not have the physical copy on me right now. And I would like to ask Wander Books to, like, just close your ears, okay? But I'm soft DNFing Dress of the Emerald Sea. It is a fantasy book. I'm gonna tap on my Kindle while I talk about this. It's a fantasy book about a girl named Dress, and she goes on a quest to save someone. And she lives in a world where the sea is incredibly dangerous and the water isn't made of water. It's a very well-rounded world in the book, and I enjoyed it. However, it's first of all just not my sense of humor at all. It's very witty and sharp, and in places it kind of breaks the fourth wall, so you are addressed as the reader, and I like that balance. However, the ways in which it was witty and like silly just it's not my sense of humor, so I was kind of rolling my eyes a little bit. And then I'm not enjoying the pacing of the book. I need a switch of scenery, and it takes place in one place a long time. And I just found myself not grabbing the book anymore. So I might pick it up later when I feel the energy for it, but I kind of need to, like, push myself to do it, and I don't like that. Like, life's too short to push yourself to read books. I'm just really sad that I don't like it, because I know a lot of you love it. So I'm hoping to get, like, re-inspired, I guess, to read it again, but it's gonna be a while. I want to read some other books first, so that was my thoughts on Dress of the Emerald Sea. Okay. That's all I have to say about the books that I read this month, but let's take a look at the books that you guys read. I am putting on my blue light filter glasses because I have a little bit of a headache, and looking at a screen makes it a lot worse. So, I'm going to read your reviews off my laptop screen here. For some of the people who send me a review, I have Book Talk, Bookstagram links, and I'll put them in the description. If I forgot to include it or I misspelled anything, just please let me know in the comments, and I'll fix it. Okay, we're going to start with Sarah. Sarah's Bookstagram and Book YouTube. It's called at Reading by the Moon, and she said, I don't really post on there, so let's all, like, motivate her to post, because we want to see what you're reading. And this is a review about Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I hope you pick the book up soon. It is simply amazing. I heard a lot about it, so I am intrigued, but we're gonna see. I did not read the reviews beforehand because I wanted to have, like, a first reaction along with you guys, I guess. So I am very excited. send me reviews, I add them to my TBR. I'm very behind on adding things to my TBR on Goodreads, but the list just keeps growing and growing. But if you read Divine Rivals, leave a comment. Okay, next up we've got Kendra. The book that I want to share is actually a reread for me of my favorite book that I read last year. I don't know if that counts as partially cheating. It counts. Rereads in a month counts because you read it. So the book is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, which I rated and still do a 6 out of 5 stars if I could. The story starts out following our main character's mother, who finds out she's pregnant with him at 16 in rural Ireland in the year 1944. Disgraced from her family, she flees her extremely Catholic town for Dublin, where she believes she'll be able to carry out her plan to set him up for adoption, with the help of a few people she meets along the way. This is where the story begins. 7 years later, following Cyril, this story is told over about 70 years, in 7-year increments, as we're immersed into his life and all its struggles and triumphs. By the end of the story, you'll feel so entrenched in Cyril's story that it's hard to extract yourself. This book was fantastic and did not remotely disappoint me on the second read. It is at turns heartbreaking and utterly hilarious. If you enjoy dry, witty humor, then this novel will have you laughing out loud. If you enjoy emotionally charged novels, I think this book will have you shedding some tears as well. I've seen people compare this book to A Little Life, if it were less sad and completely desolate. And while I haven't read the book, I can definitely say that while it was sad, it's so incredibly heartwarming as well. After finishing it, I can't help but be so happy that I have the ability to read, and the authors publish their work for others to enjoy. If anyone reads this, I hope that you love it as much as I do. Isn't it just the best feeling in the world when a book has such an impact on you that it makes you realize what a gift it is to be able to read and to immerse yourself in art others create? Truly, I love that feeling, and I'm so glad that this book gave you that feeling. And this is going to the top of my TBR because I wanna immerse myself into someone's world. Next up, we've got Jewel, and this is a review for Gone Girl, which is the iconic thriller that has been made into a film. I've seen the film, so I know the plot. I don't know if I want to read the book, but this is such a well-loved book. Here is Jewel's review. Rating 5 out of 5 stars. Gone Girl follows the story of a missing woman in Missouri. Her husband is being blamed for her disappearance and suspected death, but he seems to think she's playing with him. The book follows the perspective of both the wife and the husband. This is my favorite book ever. It's such a psychological thriller that it is constantly shocking. Although it can be quite dense and a time-consuming read, it is a must-do. I would recommend this book, especially to the thriller genre lovers. Thank you, Jill, for your review. Next up, we've got Kaylee, who has an Instagram and TikTok, which is at kaylee.golds, and she's more active on Book Talk, so you should go to her Book Talk. The book I'd like to share is called The Fabric of Our Souls by K.M. Moranova. I rate the book 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a heavy one, so I highly suggest looking at the content warnings before reading it. The book is a contemporary dark romance thriller that discusses topics like mental health and violence. It is a little explicit. Here is the synopsis from the back of the book. I'm 26 years old and I want to die. Waking up alive in a hospital with my brother weeping over me is the moment that everything changes. He has me committed serious smut, so if you aren't into that, I totally understand. But if you are, as someone who has struggled with my own mental health, I felt very seen by this book and related to the main character, Win, in a lot of ways. Throughout the book, she starts to get better and then periodically slips, and I feel like so many of us who struggle experience that. True, healing and mental health, everything, it isn't linear, and that's not something you find very often in a book where a character very noticeably keeps slipping, you know what I mean? So, I like that. I feel like I look like a teacher. Anyway. No spoilers, but one quote that I loved and really sold me on reading this is, "The fabric of our souls is thin and worn. We must be gentle and love tirelessly." That being said, I didn't really like the idea that being with someone can fix or cure you was pushed so much. I don't necessarily believe you can't love someone else without being fully loving yourself, but you can't rely on someone else to cure you. You have to want to help yourself. Overall, this book was still incredible. I cried several times reading it because I just related so much, and you could tell the author wrote from a personal experience and from the heart. I think it sounds very interesting, and I like what you say about not liking the idea that being with someone who can fix you, because you're right, you know, we're people and we're all reliant on each other, and I know that we are like more and more are we striving to be very independent, but we're humans and we need connection and we do need each other. However, you cannot fully depend on another person to cure you. I see what you're saying, and I think I agree. Sounds like a very interesting story. Next up, we've got Kaya, or Kaya. Her Instagram is at Kaya Taylor's version. So we've got a Swiftie among us. Okay, this is a 5-star read. It is absolutely amazing. Highly recommend. What's the title of the book? Okay, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is a 5-star read. It's absolutely amazing. Highly recommend. It's a fantasy romance about a really poor girl who lives on the streets and a prince. The girl unexpectedly saves the prince and is thrown into a set of trials against elites, people who have powers. The girl, however, doesn't have powers and has to pretend to have them to survive the trials. I love this book because of the enemies to lovers type of romance. The banter is top tier. It feels so natural and fun. You could literally feel the tension. The prince is amazing, the girl is amazing, and the two of them together. It was the kind of book that you want to keep reading and never put down, the kind that makes you forget you're reading. It was a one-sitting read for me. It flowed really well, worth losing sleep for. Perfect if you're looking for a fantasy romance with lots of banter. We love banter. Thank you for your review. Now let's go to Sav. At Sav's Art on YouTube. I read a lot of books this month, but I wanted to give one of my favorites, The Gentleman's Guide to Vices and Virtues by Mackenzie Lee. 4.5 stars. It's a book about a young man in the 1800s who is going on a grand tour of Europe with his best friend before they leave for school, but it doesn't go quite as planned. I loved all the characters, and definitely the main character's humor and personality. I loved some of the unexpected plot, and I feel like the length of the book was perfect for me. It's about 500 pages. There's nothing I didn't like in particular in this book for me, but it definitely wasn't 5 stars, so I don't know what, but I felt like I was missing something. I know that feeling of like there's something missing, I don't know what it is. I did feel a little bit like something was missing to give me that 5-star feeling. Thank you for sending me your book review. Next we and she's celebrated. It's for Broken Earth. But whoa, did the Inheritance trilogy really change what I thought was possible with fantasy. Jemish, as a black woman,